Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So tonight we're going to be doing some classical dishes from Brazil. A lot of them are just influenced by the ingredients that are native to the area. So we're actually going to start with making the dessert first. It's more of like a power snack. So I know it says Brazilian chocolate truffles. They're not going to be like the truffles that you are expected, where they're really creamy and decadent. The traditional recipe for brigadeiros, which is the Brazilian chocolate dessert, it's like loaded with sweetened condensed milk and butter, and it's not really, I couldn't really find a really good, healthier recipe without sacrificing all of the richness and flavor. So we found something that's kind of similar. So we're going to just start right with that, and then we're going to start working on our vinaigrette, or our dressing for our salad. We're going to do a Brazilian, kind of like a Cobb salad, and then we're going to finish with a Brazilian shrimp stew. We're going to do that last, so it's nice and fresh, and we get to taste it while it's hot, and it's going to be great. So we'll start out with the truffles here. So we have, these are just Brazil nuts. You've probably seen these in like your mixed nut bag or whatever. So we're actually going to put these into the food processor, and we're going to grind them up pretty finely, almost like a powder. I know it's going to get a little loud. So Brazil nuts are a really healthy nut. They are like high in unsaturated fats, and actually they're known to regulate your thyroid, your thyroid gland. So I know that it's a very good, it's a good nut to snack on for that, and it's really good for your heart. Like most nuts, they do contain oils, but it's the good kind of oils. Brazil nuts are one of the most, they have the most oils. They're so large, but if you can see, this is kind of what we're looking for. And there's a lot of that moisture in the Brazil nut from the oils, so that's why you can almost kind of hold it together like that. And we're going to take all the rest of our ingredients, and they're going to get mixed in the bowl. How easy is that? Actually done with this. So to that, we have unsweetened cocoa powder. This is actually dark cocoa powder. I really like that. It gives it a lot more rich flavor. And then we have our cocoa nibs. Cocoa nibs come from the cacao tree. That's like where they get chocolate, but it's not sweet. They're a little more bitter, but it's a nice healthy snack. It's packed with fiber and protein. And then we have coconut oil here. We're just going to add just a little bit. That almost just helps it kind of. You have a microwave here, right? Really? You don't have a microwave. All right, so I was just going to warm this up, but it's okay. It'll melt with the heat of my hand. So this is just coconut oil. Go right in there. I think I just had it in my cooler. So got a little stiffened up. No, that's okay. I mean, that was probably the first and only time I'll ever ask. And then we have just maple syrup. You can use honey. I think the maple syrup just gives it a good extra little flavor. And that's kind of our only sweetener there. And I'm just going to go in with my gloves here, break up that coconut oil pretty good. And it's going to get a little sticky. That's just the nature here. So then, once we put these together, we're going to roll it into a ball, and then it's going to go into desiccated coconut. So then, so desiccated coconut is just, it's just the coconut that is grated from the flesh of the inside of the coconut, and then it's actually dehydrated and dried. There's no added sugar. It's just, it's like unsweetened. And it's a little more stiff than if you would get the stuff like that you bake with. That's kind of like a little gummy. So then, I have a little plate here. I'm just gonna do, I made up a whole bunch of these for everybody to try after the fact. So, I'm just gonna do a few of them just for the sake of the demonstration. And when I was making them earlier, I found that the balls, when you roll them like a meatball, they kind of fall apart because there's nothing really in there to hold them together. So I was almost making them like a little hamburger, like almost a little patty here or something. And then once you toss these in the coconut, they'll go into the refrigerator, and then they'll have an opportunity to harden up a little bit. So like I was saying, these are just, it's packed full of energy. And if you see, I will try to start putting more of the nutrition information on the bottom of the recipes. So these recipes I found online, and I've tweaked a few of them just for our purpose here. And so that's what I got from these websites. So per truffle, you're looking at 56 calories. I might even be able to get a little more than 12 out of this, because I know that's what your recipe said. So they're going to be even a little bigger than that. So I'm just going to go ahead, do a little toss here, and I'm going to throw the rest of them, throw them in the freezer, and then we'll continue on. So that's kind of our first little snack there. Like I said, I wanted to start these so that we can get them into the fridge and they'll start to harden up. Okay. Board here for a minute. And then we're going to start working on our I keep calling it a vinaigrette, but we'll call it, it's the dressing for our Cobb salad here. So we have, if you look at your recipe for the Cobb salad, so this is like, it's an inspiration from classic ingredients from Brazil. They use a lot of cashews. Cashew was actually where, or Brazil was actually where the cashews were native. So that is going to be used in place of oil. There's no oil in the dressing. So we have our cashews, and then this is both fresh squeezed orange and lime juice. It's really important to use the fresh. And then I'm just going to give a little chop on our parsley here. This is already measured out here. I'm just going to throw on a quick pair of gloves. And it's all going to be blended up in the blender together, so I don't have to go too crazy. I just want to make sure that it'll be able to get started here.
Are you using raw cashews?
Yes, raw cashews. They're not salted, and they're not roasted. I roasted a few of the raw cashews that we will top the salad with once it's complete.
Can you
So,
tell me again what the cocoa nibs are?
yeah, so they're from the cacao tree, or the plant that they get the cocoa beans to make chocolate. So they take the nibs, and they're actually fermented and then roasted, and then they're dried out. So it's an interesting snack. I found them in the bulk section at Wegmans. It was like the last thing I had to buy, and I'm like, where is it? They're not that cheap, but you'll have them for a long time. They are not gonna spoil on you.
What do they taste like?
They're kind of bitter. I should have brought a package with me, I was gonna say. Yeah.
Like chocolate bitter.
Yeah, so if you think about like unsweetened like baker's chocolate, it kind of has that where it's bitter. Like I said, there's no sugar on it, and it's raw. Like that's what the package will say. I think you can also buy it roasted. so that might give it a different flavor. But they're just, it's like a nice little, healthier snack, but they're tiny, and I don't love them as a snack because they're kind of like, I don't know if you've ever had like chocolate covered coffee beans. It's like almost like that same kind of crunchy, whatever. So, yeah, that's that. And then, okay, so to our dressing, we have our cashews, our parsley, orange juice, or lime juice, and then we have a half a teaspoon of black pepper. Black pepper's going to go right. And then we have also a half teaspoon of liquid aminos.
What is that?
So liquid aminos, it's a soy sauce substitute that they, it's all natural. This is actually made from coconut, and it's a soy-free alternative. So if there's any dietary issues with soy, and it's 73% less sodium than soy sauce. I have some more information. So just half a teaspoon, and that's just, it's not like you're going to taste it and you're going to say, wow, that's just salt, like soy sauce is. It's just, it has like that kind of savory, salty, savory flavor to it. So what do I have here about this? So it contains both essential and non-essential amino acids, and it's like I said, it's a soy sauce substitute. So, okay, in our blender, because we don't have a whole ton of liquid, I actually made the dressing before because I wanted to try it. So I have, let's see, pulse. I'm just going to liquefy it. Sorry that you have to hear me breathe.
Now, if I didn't want to get the liquid aminos, could I use soy sauce?
You certainly could use soy sauce, yes. That's just for the, or you know, low sodium soy sauce is great to use too. This was just the recipe that I found that I liked, but you can certainly use that. And then you really want to make sure you're scraping the bowl down here because they are, you know, raw cashew. Going to take a few times here. I'm actually going to take the other dressing that I made right before I got here, just so it has a little more liquid in there. It'll just help it along a little bit. I'm just going to grab that in the fridge. So this is kind of what it's going to look like. This isn't really a dressing that you could make up too far in advance because of the parsley. It will start to turn brown. This is just the dressing, yeah. Just because I don't have enough liquid in the blender for it to really work its power here, I'm just going to throw that in there. But it's the exact same thing we just did. There we go. Okay, that worked out. So then we have a nice, smooth dressing here. And we're going to just put that back into the fridge. And we're going to let that chill, and we can work on our salad ingredients. So our salad ingredients, all of these flavors in this salad are all inspired by the cuisine of Brazil. They use a lot of citrus when they cook, a lot of fresh ingredients. You know, it's very warm, so they're able, it's a tropical climate. They can, let's see. All right, so they have, what's in our salad are obviously we have cashews. We're going to put over the top, we have black beans, delicious corn, avocados, sliced red onions. All right, so that's back in the fridge. And a bunch of nice fresh bell peppers. And I'm going to get rid of this equipment here. So, I'm also going to work, I'm going to start with a little bit of, we're going to be cooking rice. That's going to go with our shrimp stew. Organized. That's what that's for. Okay. So for our salad, we have some red onion, some nice avocados, some bell peppers, and we're going to put these right on our tray here. We're going to line them all up because when we make our salad and we present it, it should have all of our ingredients, like a traditional Cobb salad. It'll have all of our nice ingredients kind of layered, and then we'll pour the dressing over the whole thing. So we'll start with the first ingredients on our list. We have our red onion. So we want to do it nice and thin. I'm going to actually cut the onion this way first, and then very carefully we're going to cut very nice and thin. These are going to be left raw, so we want to make sure that they are nice and thin. Once we get down there, we can save it for another use. Green bell pepper. I like to take the bottom off. That way you can stand it up. And then if you kind of go around the pepper, you leave the rib right intact there. And then you don't have to worry about getting rid of some of the seeds. So then those all stay right in there. And then we can discard that. Some bell peppers here.
Do you have any advice on the avocado? I always like it's either too hard or brown. Like, what's the secret of good avocado?
Yeah, so it is hard to find. What I just, if they are too hard or if they are too soft, I just don't buy avocado that week because it's really hard. I haven't been able to have any luck ripening avocados, because they either go from really hard to black, which is really frustrating. So that's what I say in the past is just, a lot of times they have like the organic ones, or they even have mini avocados. And those, I find I have better luck with those being more ripe. You have to pay more for them, but I like those. But yeah, there's really, I don't have a secret on how to ripen them. I've tried to put them in a bag with a banana. Somebody's told me that trick before, but it just, I don't know. I don't have luck with it. But it's a great question. So here we are. We're just going to cut some strips here. And then we're going to cut these pieces into smaller dice. And that'll be nice bite-sized pieces for our salad. I have all my other vegetables prepped up for the shrimp, so we don't have to sit here and watch a whole bunch of cutting. Is that? I'm sorry. I know. Okay. So we're going to do some red pepper as well. Cut off the bottom. also have avocado that we're going to cut into. We're going to say a prayer that it is a nice looking avocado on the inside. So when I'm picking out avocados, I always like to feel them. They should be firm, but you should be able to press your finger into it and have a little give. If they're really rock hard, it's kind of like a banana if you think about, or a peach. They don't really have a whole ton of flavor if they are not ripe. An unripened avocado is it's horrendous. You can't really do anything with it either. I wish I had a trick. Okay, so we got some nice bell pepper here. Line those up on this. And then we also have, these are hearts of palm. So hearts of palm are it's like the edible bud of a palm tree, and they're low in cholesterol. They're a good source of protein and fiber. A lot of people would use them as like a protein substitute. You can buy them in the can. I don't think you could ever get them fresh. But we're just going to cut them in half like this. And we're going to kind of, I'm sorry? So it's definitely like has like a meatier texture and flavor. It kind of looks like a leek almost, if you've ever, like the green onions, but it is like a shoot. It's like the inside of it's the edible part of a palm tree on the inside. So as far as flavor goes, it doesn't have a whole ton of flavor. What they put in the can with it, like they boil it with a little bit of salt. It's hard to explain the flavor. I'm sure.
Is it a lot like an artichoke heart?
That's a good comparison. It's kind of like an artichoke. Yeah, it does kind of have like that flavor. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take these, and I like to just cut them on the bias like this. You just get a little better presentation rather than just cutting them into coins. This is how I like to do that. And then I already have the corn off the cob, so I just used fresh Eden Valley corn, homegrown. It's great right now. And what I like to do is roast the corn in the oven right with the husks, and you get a lot of the flavor and a lot of everything stays in. You're not boiling it because you kind of lose a lot of the nutrients and the sweetness and the flavor. Some people boil corn with sugar and water and milk, I've heard, but if you're buying it right now, it's really great, and you don't have to. Like I said, I like to roast it, and what's even better about that is the silk comes right off. It comes right off. It's really nice.
So the husks don't burn?
No, so I roast it at like 400 degrees for about like 10 to 12 minutes. You could like flip them over, but they just get like, they get really nice and roasty, and you get like this really nice flavor.
What? 400?
Yeah, and it's really forgiving. What I say, just check it, peel back a little part of it, and I like to just feel, the corn like that. But it's really simple to do that way, and like I said, the corn comes right off. Yeah, right on a baking pan, just like any kind of baking pan like that. As long as they're not hanging over, so that those silks don't fall to your oven and burn. So, okay, so here we have our avocado. There's that big pit right in the bottom. I like to go all the way around with my knife and then very carefully pull it apart. And we have a pretty good looking avocado here. So, it's really nice. It's firm enough. It's not going to fall apart and mush. And I brought a little extra lime. We're going to drizzle right over the top so that way it doesn't brown up too much on us. So then I like to just very carefully put it in there like that and then pull it off like that. You can use your board too. Keep it on your board. If you don't want to, just give it a wiggle and then you can kind of do one of those. If you're making guacamole or something, I heard that you can keep these in there and it'll help it won't turn brown. So from this, we're going to take our avocado and I'm going to cut little slices just like this right inside the avocado skin, being careful not to break through the other side. If you do, that's okay. And then I'm going to leave these in like decent sized pieces like that. So that way if they do break down a little bit, we're not going to lose them in the salad. And then as we put our salad together, we can go through and take out some of that brown, unattractive parts that we don't have to eat that.
Avocados are becoming so popular lately. They say that that's the number one newest injury is they call it the avocado hand.
Avocado hand?
Yeah, of taking the pit out and it slips and people are cutting themselves.
No way.
Yeah, in the hospital.
Well, I know like the price of avocados has gone through the roof.
I know.
And I don't know if it's true if you read everything on the internet. They said that there might not be avocados in the future. We keep, I don't know, the demand because it's been so dry where they're growing them and the demand is so high. Okay, so for our salad, I'm just going to take a little bit of lime, and like I said, once we assemble the salad, then we'll scoop the avocados right out there. But now at least we have most of our ingredients, and that'll just help with the so it doesn't brown out. There's lime in the salad dressing, so that's why we're using lime. It'll just help in the flavor as well. It's not gonna interfere. Okay, so we have that. I don't think we need any more peppers. And then that. And then here's our corn that we roasted in the oven. I already took it off the cob. We're just going to put that there. And then our black beans. So you can certainly cook the black beans yourself. I just bought, it's an organic brand that they don't cook with any salt in the beans, just because that's the biggest concern with just your regular canned beans is the sodium. They're very high in sodium if you're not either cooking them yourself or buying the ones without sodium. Okay, so now we're going to move on. We're going to start our rice for our, there's not a recipe for the rice because it's just going to be served with the shrimp. I just wanted to give you something a little extra to like kind of mop up the sauce a little bit that's going with our shrimp. So this is just brown rice. It's just your regular brown rice, and to cook it, it's 1 part rice to 2 parts liquid. You can use stock of any sort or bouillon or whatever, but then, like I said, that's a lot of salt that you're adding. So there's enough flavor from our sauce. I just put in a half of a white onion into the pot, and I know these burners, pot always gets too hot on me. So we're going to keep an eye on that. And then I just have a little avocado oil here. We're just going to kind of put a little bit in there just to get the onions going. And I'm just going to add a pinch of salt and a little bit of pepper. And then what we're going to do is once the onions start to turn translucent a little bit, then we will add our rice, and we want to coat the rice a little bit later when it's cooking so they don't kind of stick together. It's really important to do this step. So these pots nice to get nice and warm. Turn it down just a little bit. So we have all of our ingredients ready to go. So rice is going in. just want to stir that all the way around. You don't want to stop stirring because if the rice sits on the bottom of the pot, it'll burn.
Is that rice already cooked?
No, this is just brown rice right out of the bag.
Oh, okay.
And it's 2 parts liquid to 1 part rice, so I have 8 cups water here because I have 4 cups of rice. So we're going to throw that right in there. And now we're going to bring that up to a boil. And once that comes to a boil, we just want to stir it once. Because if we keep stirring the rice, it's going to start to get starchy and it's going to start to clump up and it's not going to be delicious. So then to this, once this comes up to a boil, we are going to turn the heat down and we're going to put a lid on it. I have some aluminum foil there. And we're not going to cover it tightly. We want to leave it vented a little bit so that way some of the steam can come out. And then we are going to hit it with a little lime juice once it's finished. So I'm going to save those. Okay. No, it's just brown rice. 18 minutes. Once it comes to a boil. Oh yeah, it's just like Goya brown rice. Or I think that was the, yeah. Okay, so while that's cooking, like I said, that's going to come to a boil. And then we're going to start on our shrimp. Just trying to tighten up here. So for our shrimp, our Brazilian shrimp stew, if anybody wants to try to pronounce that, I'm going to say moqueca de Camaros, but moqueca is a traditional Brazilian fish stew. They usually use a firm white fish or shrimp. I think that's what shrimp translates to, is that Camaros. So moqueca is they said, a traditional fish stew that is usually the fish is simmered with coconut milk and other spices and tomato. They use a lot of tomato in their cooking in Brazil. So we're going to go ahead. We have our pot here. I know you can't really see too much of what's going on in that pot. We'll do our best. So we're going to turn that down because we do have to clean up some roasted red peppers. So I know you can buy them in the store, but I really like to do them myself because it's just a totally different flavor. They give off, I like to just put them right on the stove, just get an open flame, and you're just charring the outside of the skin. And then you see this will just, so once you have the pepper completely charred on the outside, put it into a bowl and cover the bowl with foil or plastic wrap because you want to steam the pepper. So when you're charring it on the stove, and then the inside, that's when you're more of cooking the pepper. It's the steam. The inside of the pepper gets really nice and hot. There's a lot of moisture coming from the pepper. And going back to anything out of a jar or anything out of a can, those roasted red peppers that you get in the can or the jar, again, they could be packed in oil, and the oil is not the best. It's not the best oil. It's not like it's packed in extra virgin olive oil. Yeah, so that's actually the skin of the pepper that we charred up. So that comes right off, and you really don't want to rinse it under the stove, under the sink. I know you're probably thinking, wouldn't that be a lot easier? But then you kind of get rid of a lot of that flavor. So what we're going to do, once I get the majority of it off, I'm going to take the back of my knife, and I'll be able to scrape off the rest of it. And any little bits that are left, it's really okay. You don't want to eat because it's essentially like carbon. And then on your recipe, it also has jalapenos. So I also roasted those as well on the stove because this recipe originally was for to use like canned tomatoes with like the hot peppers. They put like the roasted peppers. I don't know if it's Rotel or something. But I really wanted to try the recipe with fresh tomatoes and fresh peppers, and just bringing all those delicious ingredients, especially because homegrown tomatoes are just coming out with the local stuff. So I wanted to use that.
That's beside the oils that make you touch it to your eye or something, or you got stuff.
Well,
It's still got that where, you know, like when you cut a jalapeno and you get the juice on your hand.
oh yeah. So you're saying, will like as it's cooking, will it?
When you roast it like that, does
Yeah.
it still have that danger? Or if you touch it?
Yeah. So like I really shouldn't, do that now. Thanks for the reminder. But as you roast it, it definitely some of that flavor does get more mild, rather than if it was just raw. But the most of the heat that it's all in the seeds of the pepper and the ribs. The ribs are those white parts of the inside of the pepper. That's kind of where all that heat is. And I'm going to take the seeds out just because we don't need any extra heat. You can certainly leave them in if you like spicy stuff, but when I do a jalapeno, some people like to cut it right in half and take a spoon down. I like to, just like we did with the other pepper, if you leave it on your board and you're very careful, you can kind of fillet it like this, and all the seeds and all the ribs kind of stay right in. And we can leave those off to the side. And that's kind of where your heat is. And like I was saying, you can go ahead with your knife here, scrape away if there's any of those bits that are left on there. They come right off on your knife, which is nice. So we have, this was a little tiny one, so we're just going to do it as well. And we're going to be careful not to get any of those seeds in with it. Get our peppers all cleaned up over here, and then we'll get to cutting them up. So again, take the bottom off, and then we'll kind of just go into the side. It opens right up. Perfectly roasted pepper. And you can kind of leave all the seeds there, even that are left. Just kind of scrape away, just gently with the back of our knife. And our rice is almost starting to come to a boil over there. And then we're going to take this. And the flavor you get from these peppers, it's really gonna just make the stew a lot more. It's just going to give it more depth. You're going to be able to taste it and think that it's been cooking for longer because it's a very quick. It's called a stew, but I think it's definitely more brothy. There's nothing in it that's going to thicken it. It's like gluten-free. It's dairy. It's dairy-free. So now that our rice is just coming up to a gentle boil, I'm just going to give one last stir in there like that. Turn our heat down a touch. Throw our lid on there. And like I said, we just want to leave it tented just a little bit so that way some of the steam can come out. Okay. So now that we got most of our seeds out of our peppers here, you certainly could buy the stuff in the jar. But like I said, it's hard to control the extra sodium, the salt, the oil, any of the extra preservatives, because that's all in there. And you really, when you know where you're buying your produce, you know it's good stuff. So that's why I like to use the fresh peppers. Okay? And then we're just going to clean up a little bit here with our towels.
So when you roast it, do you put it in a pan and like fry it?
It's actually right on the fire.
Right on the
So
fire?
right on, you turn your stove on, and it just sits perfectly on the grates
Oh,
of your
really?
stove.
Really?
Yep. And it's not really gonna, there's not a whole lot of moisture that's gonna come out. If you leave it on there too long, it'll start to steam, it'll like pop a little bit, but they don't really take a lot of time to do. So it's not like you're
It turns
gonna.
all black, then you
Yep.
cover it with foil, you said? Or-
Yep. So as soon as the entire part of your skin is black and charred, then put it into a bowl, or I just use that little Rubbermaid container, and then it just it steams. If you put a little plastic wrap or foil over it, it'll just steam, and that's kind of what helps it finish cooking. And all the steam goes in between the skin and the flesh of the pepper, and that's what helps it separate. So if you don't do that part, then it'll take a lot more effort to get that skin off. And if there's any part of the pepper that's not roasted or charred, it won't come off. It'll just kind of remain on there. So that's why, again, it's. All right. These burners are hot. Okay. So now this pot's heating up nicely. I'm going to turn that down a little bit too. So we're going to start off this dish, and I like to leave these peppers a little on the larger side. With the first ingredient that's going to go into our pot is red palm oil. So red palm oil, it's loaded with vitamin A. So vitamin A is what we need for our eyesight. It really boosts brain health. It has a high smoke point, so you can saute with it, fry with it. This is it here. This is our red palm oil. It's good for your skin and hair growth, and it's unrefined, so it says organic superfood, but you can find this in the baking section at Wegmans. I didn't want to use it if I couldn't find it locally, because I know you can also buy it on like Amazon or something, but you can buy it. I think that was $6 for the jar. It's not the most expensive oil, but it's not by any means cheap. But it's
Recipes can you use it for?
you can use it for any recipes that you're cooking with, especially like sautéing or frying. Like even if you want to use a little in the pan, they say that about a tablespoon a day. It's really good for you. And like I was saying about vitamin A, they actually said if you have like dry eyes, or if like really like tenderness with like your eyes, it's probably a vitamin A deficiency. And that's just a really easy way to get more of that vitamin A. And it comes from it's like the red palm tree, which is native to South American countries. Okay, so now we have our peppers all ready to go. And it has a high smoke point too, so it's, like I said, it's good for frying. Just want to make sure we have all our ingredients ready. So we have our shrimp I'm leaving in the fridge. We'll grab that in a minute. You can also certainly use any oil, like olive oil is fine. We're not really bringing this up too high. Olive oil doesn't, the more you cook olive oil, the hotter it gets. You lose all those really great benefits from the olive oil, so you don't want to go straight olive oil. We're just going to use our single spatula here. So we have our palm oil goes in. And then as soon as this starts to melt, it just looks like regular oil. And we're really going to get a nice, rich red color from this.
Is that what's in that jar?
Yes, that's what's in here.
And then you put it in the fridge?
No, it just looks like that.
Oh, it does?
It's like kind of like coconut oil, where it's thick like that. Yeah. So then we have I have onions. They're going to go into our oil. And we don't want it to be too high. We don't want to brown them. We just want them to be very nice and translucent. So I cut up a little onion ahead of time. And then we have a few cloves of garlic here. And I already have these peeled, so I'm just going to go down. I'm going to leave the one side intact, and then I rotate it over. And we're just going to go right down. Get a nice mince here on your garlic. You don't want any large pieces in there. And we can kind of go with that in there. So these were a little small. I'm going to use 3. I doubled the recipe, the liquid on this recipe. I have some more shrimp. I think I have 2 pounds of shrimp, so we're just going to do a little extra. We're just going to double up this. So our onions are frying nicely. There's our garlic. Okay. So then, all right, I just want to make sure. Somebody's going to call out and say, that's not what it said. And then add the garlic and the peppers, yep. Okay. Turn this up just a touch. I'm going to start. And like I said, this is a quick, very quick soup, stew. Get the garlic right in there. And we're going to throw our peppers in as well. We're just going to cook. So the peppers have already been cooked. We just want those flavors to kind of get to know each other. And then I already have our tomatoes cut up. So now that's going to go for just a minute. We want that garlic to start to soften as well. We don't want that to be too harsh. Tomatoes go in after that. And then we have some fresh cilantro here. I'm going to chop it up, but I'm going to wait until we're ready to serve it to add it. I know the recipe, it says to add it, but I really like, anytime I'm cooking with herbs, is to add it towards the last minute, especially cilantro. It's such a delicate herb, so it's going to brown up very easily because we're going to add lime juice as well. And that's, the acid in that is really just going to, like I said, it's going to kind of, it's going to just destroy the color of the cilantro. You're not going to, the flavor is a lot, in my opinion, it's just better when it's fresh and not cooked down. You just lose a lot of it. So I'm just going through and trying to get rid of some of the larger stems here.
I'm sitting here saying, I never did that to mine.
You don't have
do
to.
that. Oh.
It's certainly edible. They really are.
Okay.
You know, it's not like rosemary. Rosemary you really shouldn't. But I just figured there's just a few big pieces here. I'm just going to kind of go through. And you don't have to do this. Like I said, it's. I'm sure there's all the nutrients are in the stems too. I'm sure. That looks good. There's just some big pieces here. So now that our onion mixture here is starting to cook, we're going to get ready to throw in our tomatoes. I just want to get one more minute of the cilantro. And that looks good. And I like to wash, especially cilantro. It tends to be very sandy. What I know that Wegmans always has like their sprayers and everything. It says triple washed or whatever, but especially the herbs, if you tap it on your cutting board and you see dirt, that's when you know you should really just wash it. Okay, so now our tomatoes are going in. Now we're getting a really nice aroma from just the roasting process from that, from the peppers. So now we have our tomatoes are going in. And we just want to cook those just until they start to warm through. We don't want to cook it like a long tomato sauce. I really like the freshness to be present once we're finishing. So once this comes up to back to a boil with those tomatoes in there, then we're going to add our shrimp. And the shrimp is going to cool the whole mixture back down. We have it nice and cold in here. So these were just the size here. These were the size is called 3140. So these are just 31 to 40 shrimp per pound that we have here. And then we're gonna throw them right in. Like I said, once this kind of comes up to back to a gentle boil. And then this is a good time we can add a little pinch of salt.
Do we have to use the raw shrimp or?
Well, if you use cooked shrimp, I mean it's already cooked,
Yeah.
and it's just if you're like heating it back up, it's just going to get more. It's going to get overcooked, and like the longer you cook shrimp like that, it gets kind of rubbery. But if that's all you have or that's what you like to use, you can certainly. I would just wait till the end. You don't want to cook them again.
Right.
Just going to add a little bit of black pepper in there too. And then, once we have, I think this is the, oh there we go, I was turning it, apologize. Once we have the tomatoes in there, coming back up to a boil, we have nice fresh shrimp. It's going to go right in. You could use frozen shrimp as long as it's thawed before you cook it. I took the tails off, but you certainly could. There's more flavor in the tails when you cook with them, but I was just thinking for tonight, so everybody didn't have to get their fingers messy with the oils and things, we would just take all the shells right off. So now we have the shrimp in, and we just want to start to cook it till the outsides get nice and opaque. So this is peeled into vein shrimp. And I like to let it just kind of cover it, let it all cook evenly in there. And then once that starts to heat up, we're going to go ahead. I have our coconut milk here. This is just unsweetened coconut milk. You can use, they have coconut milk that's light coconut milk. You're just not going to, it's not going to be as thick. It's going to be, it's not going to be as rich. It's just going to be a little more light, but that's certainly, you can certainly use that. This isn't quite, I don't think this isn't full fat coconut milk. This is, like I said, it's just unsweetened coconut milk. You don't want to use the sweetened stuff. That's important. So now anytime we use our herbs here, we want to just, I like to bundle them up, get them as close as possible. You don't want to press them down too much. You don't want to bruise them. But I like to just do this. And then you just want to run our knife through them just a few times. I'm sorry, I can move this here. The more times you run your knife through the herb, the more it's going to bruise. And when you're cutting the herb, you want to cut into the herb, not down. Like I said, it's just you're going to bruise it, and it's always nice to have a nice sharp knife. So I'm just going to go through and turn it. So we're just going through once, twice, and then we have our nice cilantro ready to go. So now our shrimp, they're starting to plump up a little bit here. Right here. And they're starting to, I'll grab a pair of tongs here so we can kind of see. You'll see them starting to cook up a little bit. Starting to turn pink on the outside. And all that color in there, let me see if I can do this, is from that red palm oil. So that's, if you're making this and you're using olive oil or something, something else, you're not going to get that nice color. So if you can see, I know it's kind of hard, I don't want to tip it too much here. You can kind of see, if you do this.
Oh, yeah.
So it just has like a nice red hue. It's almost orangey, and it's all kind of staying like nice and emulsified. That oil is really, there we go, that's the color.
Yeah.
I'm never going to be able to get the color out of this one. Yeah, it's like when I did the Indian demonstration. Okay, so now that that's starting to turn opaque, the shrimp, we're going to go ahead and add our coconut milk. So you get it out of the can. This is 2 cups because I doubled the sauce recipe. So really make sure that you're going to stir it. So it's going to be really hard on the top. If you turn the can upside down, that hard stuff's going to be on the bottom, and it's just going to make it easier to stir it. Pour a little bit of the soft stuff off the top, and then you can just kind of do that. So I already stirred this up, and it's going to be a little clumpy, but as soon as it starts to cook, it'll all break right back down. So we throw our coconut milk right in there like that. And like I said, this is a very quick cooking stew. And then all that color brightens right up. And then we're going to finish it with the cilantro. Our rice is cooking along here nicely. Oh my gosh, our heat fell off. I was wondering. Sorry about that. Okay, we're still okay. So now that that's going, we're going to move some of my paperwork here. We're going to assemble our salad. So I'm just using just field greens or salad greens, whatever you like. If you want to use romaine, if you want to use arugula, any kind of salad greens you like. I just bought the mixed salad greens, triple washed stuff. Okay, so now we lost a little bit of heat there. So now we have cashews. Just going to maybe move this. Oh, we do have to finish our soup with lime juice. And I was going to taste this with the jalapenos in there before I added any hot sauce to it. I didn't want it to be like really crazy spicy. I'm just using like a Frank's Red Hot here. It's just, it has a little more of it doesn't have quite this the robust flavors that you get from, I think on the recipe it says sriracha. So Frank's, it's just cayenne pepper that they distill, or they cook and distill in vinegar, and that's really all it is, I think, and garlic powder maybe. But it's really just a blank spice blend. So now I'm going to turn this all the way off. I just want to get these limes. I think I have a half of one over here, so we're going to use that for the rice. So now we have a few of these limes. We're going to finish this. Let's see, I know I said 2 tablespoons. We're just going to eyeball it. So we want to add the lime right at the end here. Again, it'll just brighten up all those flavors, the roasted peppers. Okay. And then I'm just going to taste quick, taste for salt, taste for spice. More salt. And then I'm going to move this forward. We're done with our limes. Our salad greens right here. Ready to dressing? That's going to go right over. Just going to do this. got a little thicker in the fridge. So we're just going to gently dress our greens. You can always put more on. And you can always adjust, it says on your recipe, you can adjust the consistency of your salad dressing. You can add a little bit more citrus juice to it, if you like. You wouldn't really want to add any water because you're just diluting all the flavor. So now we have our nice salad dressing on there. It's nice and vibrant green, you know it's fresh. We're going to add a little bit more. And then we're going to arrange all of our salad ingredients over the top. And this is something you want to do last minute before you serve it. I'll leave the dressing out if anybody wants a little more. But now is when we get to be a little creative with our presentation here. Just want to make sure our rice is doing okay. Yeah, we lost a little bit of the flame went out there, so we lost a little bit of time on that. Get a spoon. Okay, so now we're going to go through, we're going to take out our avocado, and I like to just, they'll come right out, put them right on top of your bowl, or on top of your salad here. You can even, if you have gloves on, just kind of fan them out a little bit. But I like to leave them in decent sized pieces, so that way they don't disappear in your salad. So we're going to do this. Take these out. And just in one section, because if you see what we're going to do, then we're going to go ahead and throw some red onions over here. I'm going to throw some more over here. And then we have, I like to mix the colors a little bit, so you're not putting like green next to green and so forth. And we're going to lose kind of our green peppers here in the green salad. There we have some of that, little hearts of palm over here. And over there. Some fresh corn. Over just like that. Black beans, and you can decorate this however you like. You don't have to be too crazy. It's really nice when you have them all stacked up like this. And you can just kind of make little patterns, just like so. And then we're just going to take a little bit more of the dressing and just kind of drizzle it over your raw ingredients. You don't want to cover them completely because you want to be able to see all the brightness. I just want to give it a little more flavor over the top. We'll throw a little more avocados on there just because I already have them open. So there we have our nice Cobb salad. And then we're just going to throw some fresh toasted cashews over the top, just for a little crunch, right last minute. You can chop these up. I'm just going to leave them whole. I think you get a really nice texture from that. We're not going to go too crazy. So when I roasted, I bought the raw cashews for our vinaigrette, And then I just took a few more and I just put them into a dry pan on the stove. You can do them in the oven. You have to be very careful because they will burn, and if they burn, then you're out of like $10 a pound because that's how much cashews cost. And that's our salad. Our rice is done. Our shrimp is done, and we're going to pull out our other.
No.
I did not. No, I was.
Taste it and see if it
I did taste it. I think we should add a little hot sauce. Does anybody not? I mean, it's not spicy by any means. I'm just going to add a little bit, just for a little kick. That'll give also a salt flavor too. So take that in mind when you're adding any kind of hot sauce, that you're going to get salt from that. And it is more of like a brothy, like I was saying. It's not going to be like, when you think of like stew. So we have that. Turn off our rice here. And then I'm just going to grab for the shrimp. I don't think they're going to use a slotted spoon.
Oh, okay.
I think they can get everything out. Yeah. So there was like, I think 70 shrimp in the bag, so everybody can probably have one too. So we'll go ahead and, where do we normally want to just do this? Yeah, we're going to put that right in the shrimp, right as soon as we're done. Thank you. You guys are on top of me. Cilantro, right at the last minute, like I said, is going to go right in, right over the top, and we'll leave that. And all those tomatoes stay nice and plump. Your roasted peppers, and we're gonna put our towel down. Melt the table, or we can just do this. How about? Leave this here. Just be careful. This isn't hot. Hot is hot. There's a little extra dressing if anybody needs any more. And then we have our
I forgot about
dessert
that.
here. And our rice. Just because we lost a little bit of heat. This isn't normally what would happen when you cook rice like this. There's just a little less water left. The burner went off. It might have been from the fans or something. So the rice is cooked. You don't have to do this. I'm just doing it so we don't have, there's just a tiny bit of water. And if you were to leave that water in there with the lid on it, you can certainly, it'll eventually evaporate, but I think for the sake of time, we're just gonna do that, a little bit out there. And then I'm just gonna squeeze some lime. Right over the
What
rice.
type of oil did you use with the onions before the rice?
Oh, I'm sorry, that was just avocado oil
I think
here.
you did tell us, I just couldn't remember.
That's okay. So that's another one that's kind of has a higher smoking point, and you can really, you can fry your onions. Oh, there it is. You can fry your onions with it really nice.
So you fried the onions and then you put the raw shrimp, or the raw rice.
Right. So you want to coat the rice with the oil, and it just helps it so it doesn't clump up too much. And you just want to, you can almost toast the rice in that oil if you wanted to. The rice would actually take on like a little bit of a nutty flavor, but for this application, I just wanted it to be nice and fresh, and it's just a little bit to go with your your shrimp, I figured you can put some on your plate, and then you can put your shrimp over the top, and then you can get a little bit of sauce with it too, and then it'll kind of help mop it up. So please,